Hello, everyone. My name is Igor, and welcome to our webinar, Creating Smarter Employment Contracts for a Safer Business. Thank you for joining us. Just letting you know that we'll get started in a couple of minutes. Please sit tight while we wait for everyone to enter the session. Okay, looks like we have enough people who have joined us, so we can make a start. If you missed the beginning, hello, my name is Igor, and welcome to our webinar, Creating Smarter Employment Contracts for a Safer Business, presented by Citation Group. Before we deep dive into the presentation, I just want to cover off some general housekeeping rules. If you have any questions during the webinar, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try and answer them at the end of the presentation. You do not need to wait until the end. You can type them throughout the webinar. And also, yes, this webinar is recorded. You'll be sent the recording file or link after this session. So today we'll be discussing how to create smarter employment contracts that safeguard your business and foster trust. We have quite a few people joining us on today's webinar. Given the high attendance, I'm guessing that many of you have come along to our webinar because you've experienced or seen challenges that many employers face when trying to create employment contracts that protect your business from dispute, misunderstanding, and legal risk. I'm really glad that you've joined us today, and by the time we finish the webinar, you should walk away with some useful tips and practical advice that will help you create better and smarter employment contracts. Today, our webinar will be presented by Carla Novacevski. Carla is a seasoned workplace relations advisor at Citation HR. She helps our clients via the HR advice line by providing them with guidance and support on a range of employment matters. And a little bit about me, my name is Igor, and I'm a business development manager here at Citation Group. I work directly with businesses to help them uncover any gaps that they may have around their HR and safety processes and find solutions that streamline their people management. If you haven't attended one of our webinars in the past, here's a little information about Citation Group. Citation Group has been around for 30 years, working to help Aussie and Kiwi businesses by providing some or complete workplace compliance solutions that help create better workplaces. From outsourced HR solutions and safety management systems to ISO certification, Citation Group can support your business. If you'd like to learn more about us, I'll be pleased to talk to you after today's webinar so we can work together on a bespoke solution. Today, we're featuring Citation HR. Citation HR is a complete, compliant, and cost-effective solution that helps businesses keep on top of their HR obligations, streamline their people management processes, and save you endless hours and, of course, money. Whether you're a small business or a large enterprise, every company needs a solid HR partner that supports and provides reassurance. One of the beautiful things about Citation HR is that we can provide tailored HR solutions for your HR business. From the 24/7 HR advice line, where you can access our workplace consultants and our HR software and library of resources, to the Advice Promise and our Compliance Training Centre, we have a range of solutions to suit your needs. Okay, that's all from me. I'd like to now hand over to Carla to discuss today's topic. I hope you enjoy the webinar, and I'll see you a little later on.
Thank you for that, Igor. Okay, so for today's agenda, what we'll be discussing is the types and tenures of employment. We'll then move on to discuss how the types of employment and the relevant industrial instruments affect contractual terms. We'll detail the clauses that are critical to any employment contracts. We'll explain what methods can be utilized to amend and/or update your employment contracts. We can then detail how you can streamline your contract management. And then what we'll do at the conclusion is answer some of your questions. Now, what are the types, basis, and industrial instruments relevant to employment? To get started, there are 3 types of employment. We have full-time, part-time, and casual. For full-time, these employees are guaranteed at least 38 ordinary hours of work per week. In addition, they also accrue paid leave entitlements. For part-time employees, they are guaranteed fewer hours than a full-time worker, but similarly, entitlements, but on a pro rata basis. For casual staff members, there is no guarantee of ongoing work. Now, what this means is that each bout of employment is separate and independent of the other. They also receive a 25% casual loading instead of being paid leave entitlements. Now, the basis of employment. We have permanent, maximum term, and no guarantee of ongoing work. Permanent employees work on an ongoing and indefinite basis. Maximum term employees work until the expiration of a specified term. And when there is no guarantee of ongoing work, employees do not have set hours, meaning they are rostered on an as-needed basis. Now, regarding coverage of employment, we have award-covered, award-free, and enterprise bargaining agreements. Award-covered employees are entitled to the terms and conditions detailed within a modern award. Award-free staff members are entitled to the terms and conditions detailed within the National Employment Standards. Now, enterprise bargaining agreements, you may be asking yourself, what are those? They're a collective agreement between employers and employees that set out terms and conditions of employment. These must supersede those provided by the applicable modern award, if any. Now, how do these differences in employment affect contractual terms? To begin, they do affect termination clauses and notice periods. So for permanent, full-time, and part-time employees, termination clauses should confirm that the employment relationship will continue unless terminated in accordance with the agreement. The notice period to terminate the agreement should reflect those within the applicable industrial instrument, whether that is the modern award, the National Employment Standards, or an enterprise bargaining agreement. These notice periods are based on the employee's years of continuous service. For maximum term, full-time, and part-time employees, the termination clause should confirm that the employment relationship will terminate upon the expiration of the specified term, unless done earlier in accordance with the agreement. The notice period to prematurely terminate the agreement is to be agreed upon by either party. Now, casual employees, termination clauses should reflect that the employee is not entitled to a notice period, given, as we've previously touched on, they have no guarantee of ongoing work. Another thing that will be affected is the hours of work clause. Now, for full-time employees, they perform 38 ordinary hours of work each week. The span of hours in which they work can be performed on any real span during the day, how it may fluctuate based on the applicable industrial instrument. Now, for your part-time staff, prior to a part-time employee commencing work, certain modern awards require either contractual party to agree on specific terms. As an example, you need to agree on the weekly guaranteed hours, the days the work is to be performed, the starting and finishing times of the work each day, and the duration of the shift each day. These guaranteed hours can only be varied by mutual written agreement. Now, for casual staff, these staff members have no guarantee of ongoing work, meaning that they have no set hours. They are offered and can accept shifts on an as-needed basis. We'll now move on to leave entitlements. So this clause can be affected. For full-time and part-time employees, the effect is rather similar. So the contract should detail that they accrue leave entitlements based on their ordinary hours of work. For example, it should outline that to accrue entitlements, whether on a full-time or pro rata basis, this will be 4 weeks of annual leave and 10 days of personal and carers leave each year. For casual staff members, the contract should detail their inability to access annual leave and paid personal or carers leave. However, it should specify that they do have access to unpaid leave entitlements. These leave entitlements can include 2 days of unpaid carers leave and 2 days of unpaid compassionate leave. Post-employment restraints. Now, importantly, only a court can rule on the reasonableness of a restraint clause. Accordingly, businesses are encouraged to use cascading restraint periods and areas to ensure that if a court strikes down a clause for being unreasonable, the following will come into effect. Importantly, although restraint clauses can be included in any contract, businesses should consider the reasonableness of restraining their casual workers who have no guarantee of ongoing work, and therefore they are likely to seek alternative employment concurrently.
Thanks, Carla. What a fantastic presentation so far. If you're starting to think about some of these issues in your own business, or perhaps you have an existing workplace matter you need support with, here's a special offer for you. We're providing everyone on today's call with an exclusive end of financial year offer for a limited time only. So you can actually claim 25% off if you sign up by June 30th to streamline your HR processes and protect yourself. If you'd like to claim this offer, simply scan the QR code on the screen and fill out the form on the landing page. If you're on a mobile device, you can click through using the link in the chat box below. I'll just give you a minute to complete the form and then we can get back to the presentation.
Thank you for that, Igor. Okay, so what are key terms to include in employment contracts to mitigate risk? First of all, set-off clauses. Now, a set-off clause details that an employee's remuneration is in full satisfaction of any obligations to make payment for monetary benefits under any award, agreement, or legislative instrument. These include, but aren't limited to, loadings, allowances, penalty rates, and overtime. This clause ensures that all employees above award remuneration is inclusive of entitlements, which mitigates the risk of underpayment or double dipping. Now, double dipping refers to paying the employee a higher wage than the industrial or legislative instrument, and then needing to pay monetary benefits on top of that. Confidentiality clauses. Now, these clauses are integral for ensuring that employees do not disclose sensitive information. Now, this can include numerous documents and plethora of information, including but not limited to the business's affairs, as an example, their marketing strategy, contracts with third parties, such as your suppliers or your customers, customer details, databases, and pricing lists that allow you to remain competitive. Importantly, the clause must specify that any remuneration details that must be kept confidential exclude their own. Otherwise, the business will be in contravention of pay secrecy clauses. To continue, probationary period clauses. Now, these clauses inform an employee that for the specified period, the suitability of their employment will be analysed. Unless terminated earlier, at the conclusion of the probationary period, the company will confirm whether their employment will continue. This clause is important for ensuring that employees are aware that their employment is subject to an initial review period. Now, how can I amend or update my contracts of employment? So, for minor amendments, companies can utilize contract variation agreements. These can be utilized to vary a singular or numerous terms within the employment contract. Contract variation agreements must, as a minimum, include a plethora of terms as listed on the screen. This includes referring to the worker's employment contract, detailing the clause that will be amended, specifying the amendment that will be made, detailing when the amendment will come into effect, and if it is temporary or permanent. Confirming that all other terms and conditions within their employment contract will remain unchanged, and including either party's signature to acknowledge their consent. Now, for major updates, if numerous and/or major updates need to be made, the contract can include specified terms and conditions that are going to be easily referenceable when moving forward. So the company may prefer to issue a new comprehensive agreement, meaning that all of the terms and conditions relevant to their employment will be easily located in the one place, opposed to having a plethora of documents. So you may be asking, how can we streamline contracts so that they are easier to manage? What you can do is utilize the software to distribute the contracts. So creating and distributing employment contracts through a platform that you can easily access ensures that you are not utilizing outdated employment templates that you may just have stored on your computer. Furthermore, utilizing a platform ensures that once the document is signed by the employee, it will automatically be uploaded to their employee file. This is integral for keeping ample employment records. Furthermore, what the business can utilize is regular reviews. There are numerous changes in the employment law sector, hence it is absolutely integral that the contract issued to employees is regularly reviewed to ensure that it does not contain any unlawful terms or conditions.
Thank you again, Carla. The information you have shared has been very informative, and I'm sure many people will find it useful. Before we move on to questions, we wanted to remind you about our limited time end of financial year offer. If you're ready to kickstart your people management journey and start protecting your business, we highly encourage you to sign up with our latest offer of 25% off for 2025. This end of financial year, you can get up to 25% off when you sign up before the 30th of June. We'd love to be able to assist your business, so please scan the QR code and get in touch. If you're on your mobile, you can click through the link using the chat box. So yeah, get on clicking. Just having a look at the questions now, and we've been inundated with questions, and only have time to answer a few today. If we don't answer your questions today, we'd be more than happy to talk to you offline, and we'll be in touch after the webinar. So just having a look through now, one of the questions that has come up is, what is the difference between a contract agreement and a commencement date? I think this one's directed at you, Carla.
All right, beautiful. I'll take over. Thank you. Okay, amazing question. Now, the agreement date is when the contract was signed by either party. And on the other hand, the commencement date is when the employee is set to start working for your business. Now, these dates can be the same. However, more often than not, the signage of the employment contract will predate the employee's commencement with you.
Carla, I think we have another one here for you. Are the leave entitlements in full-time and part-time employment contracts identical?
Another great question. So full-time and part-time employees, they both accrue paid leave entitlements based on their ordinary hours of work. Now, they will accrue 4 weeks of annual leave unless otherwise provided in their employment agreement or their modern award, and 10 days of personal and carers leave each year. Now, importantly, full-time employees, they do accrue this on their 38-hour working week, whereas part-time employees accrue these entitlements on a pro rata basis. So in simple terms, if a full-time employee performs 38 hours of work per week between Monday to Friday, their annual leave entitlement will be 20 days because that is the period that they will work within those 4 weeks. Now, on the other hand, if a part-time employee works, let's say 24 hours across 3 days per week, their annual leave entitlement will be 12 days. Now, this is the work that they would ordinarily perform in a 4-week period. So that demonstrates the difference between how full-time and part-time employees will accrue their paid leave entitlements.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really insightful, Carla. I think we have time for one more, so I'll just pick this one out of the box. We've got one here. So how often should I review my employment contracts?
Okay, so there's no singular answer to this question, but from a best practice perspective, employment contracts should be reviewed at least once per year. Now, typically, businesses will undertake this at the end of financial year or as a part of an annual performance review with their employee. Now, not only is this great for ensuring that the contract does not contain any unlawful terms, but it ensures that the company can renegotiate clauses as needed based on the employee's tenure and their performance. Now, as there is no legislative requirement regarding the regularity of contract reviews, it's really integral that businesses remain alert regarding changes or updates in the employment law sector. So if the company becomes privy to a change or an update, they should review their contract shortly thereafter to ensure the utmost compliance, even if they've already undertaken a review at the end of financial year or following a performance review with an employee.
Awesome. Thanks for those, Carla. That was really helpful. And I think that's all we have time for today. I'd like to thank you all for joining us for this presentation. And again, I'd like to thank you, Carla, for sharing your expertise with us. It was very, very informative. As I mentioned at the start, we'll be sending the follow-up email later today, which will include the link to our recording. So please stay tuned for that email. And as always, if you have any questions or would like to schedule a chat with us to discuss any of today's topics, please do. Our contact information is on the slide here, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again.